Hi, welcome. My name is San, and my goal is to bring useful information to you so you can have the best health outcomes possible. So let's get started. We are going to cover caregiver related presentation first. So for all you caregivers out there, I know it's a labor of love and it is quite difficult. So let's go over what are the different kind of things that may be involved in our work as a caregiver and what are some of the points to think about and resources. So in general, who's a caregiver? I think if you are, you know you're a caregiver. But it's something that we may not have thought about. It's not something that we went to school for. So it's something that we love the other person and we want to be there for them. And that's why we are doing what we can. When it comes to cancer, there are a lot of things that are involved in it. So the way I want to go over this with you is what is a caregiver? What could be the roles and responsibilities of a caregiver? What kind of task could be involved? Thinking about communication, healthcare decisions, and of course, your self-care. So as a caregiver, when we're taking care of someone who's undergoing treatment, we may need to help that person with their personal care, like as in bathing and cleaning up, day-to-day activities, or assistance in terms of helping them with preparing the food or cleaning up after preparation for the food. Some cases they can eat the food on their own, but in other cases they may need help with feeding for the food. General health care, mobility assistance, as in being able to go from one place to another. Supervision, so it may not be safe for them to drive or to be alone. So supervision. Emotional support, of course, going through a lot of changes and through a difficult time. So providing emotional support, providing transportation assistance, home organization and home chores, as well as knowing and handling potential emergencies that are involved. So those could be some of key things that we need to do as a caregiver. I was caregiver for my family, for my dad when he went through many surgeries, including very significant heart surgeries, and then even for my partner when he went through some significant medicine surgeries. So I can resonate with you and with the personal experience of the responsibility and the worry we have for our loved one. Now, in terms of personal care, we may need to consider if our loved one needs help with grooming, bathing, dressing, personal hygiene, exercise, toileting. Now, if any of these things are needed, and if you're able to do it and you're comfortable, that's great. If not, then if you need help in terms of being able to move that individual, then there are devices and lifts and all kinds of equipment that is available. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself while you are providing these activities of daily living, help on these activities, because you want to stay safe as well. Also, for some of these activities, based on your health insurance, you may qualify for some help so that you can have someone come home and help with these activities. Or the other thing is, in some cases, you may qualify to be reimbursed from the insurance for providing caregiving activities. So those are also things you can keep in mind for these activities. When it comes to preparation of food, then again, there may be work involved in grocery shopping, cooking, feeding the patient, organizing, cleaning the kitchen. Those are the kind of things. You may want to keep in mind about how much time and effort it's going to take to do these activities, because I'm sure you are juggling a lot of things as well. So being aware of this responsibility that you're taking on and the amount of time and effort it's going to take you'll want to figure out a way to manage that, to balance that with other things so that you can take care of yourself and be available for your loved one for these activities. Also general health care, so ensuring that your loved one is taking medications, keeping track of the medications, assisting with going to appointments, taking notes, things like that, assisting with movement for that individual around the house or wherever it's needed, assisting with keeping their body strong, so some exercise and activity. Emotional support, very big, both for you and for your loved one. Being able to think about those and work through those emotional support, finding those activities proactively that work for you and your loved one is going to be important. Also, make sure that you have your own support group for caregiver and some personal time for yourself so that you have time for self-care for you, so that you can continue to be able to provide support and caregiving for your loved one. Of course, we talked about this. The who's a cancer caregiver is the person who's helping that person who's going through cancer. Very important role. In the journey of that individual who's going through cancer and the treatment they're getting. You'll also be interacting with their medical team. So something to keep in mind and make notes. It's good to have a team. So if you have other family members, that all of you can come together in terms of caring for your loved one, then that would be good. You'll want to think about how to divide the work and also who's going to serve as that point of contact for the medical team, because it'll be easier for you to have one point of contact from your family who is involved in talking to the medical team. Good communication, this is something that is going to become very important as we work together with our loved one, because this is where we're all undergoing stress. We have our own emotions, we have exhaustion, and yet we're trying to do the best we can. So very important to come from a place of love and from a place of offering and honoring the other person, instead of coming from a place of expectation or blame, because very quickly we can go into those, but we know that everybody's trying to do their best. Consciously thinking about communication, consciously thinking about gratitude, consciously thinking about the clarity you need in the plan and roles and responsibilities will help you in being able to stay together as a team of the patient and the caregiver or the group of caregivers, so that we can get through this most effective. Some things that I have learned here, because I see many challenges. There are families that work well together. The outcomes are definitely much, much more positive than when there is communication struggles, or, if the loved one doesn't have, if the patient does not have family member to support, or they don't have a caregiver, or there are challenges there. So some things that I have seen here that's helpful, and I'm sure you'll find your own that work for you and your family, is in using I statements instead of you statements, and respecting your feeling and the feeling of others. One specific technique that I use, and that I recommend people to use, is to measure your energy in spoonfuls. So saying, okay, I have 2 spoons of energy, so I can do only so much. Or I have 4 spoons of energy today, or I have half spoon of energy. I barely have energy to go shower. So if we know how much energy each person has, then we can determine this is the level of things that we can get through today, and how we can delegate the rest of the services, rest of the things. Maybe that needs to get pushed back to another day, or maybe we need to get takeout meal today because we are all so tired. So those are some things to think about, and recognizing and balancing that with each other. Also finding things to be grateful for and finding moments of joy. That's one thing that I've found really helpful, is if we can focus on finding some activities that give us joy and having those common activities with each other as caregivers, or with the patient, or even going out and having something that brings you joy, that brings you happiness or brings you peace, and incorporating that even for a few minutes every day is going to be very helpful in this long journey as a caregiver. So make sure you figure that out and have that time with each other that is positive, that is joyful, that brings you peace. It's very intimate what we are doing with our caregivers. It's a lot of love, a lot of affection, and I think it's a lot of gratitude in being there, holding that space for each other and holding each other's life in our hands. So moving on, want to talk about the medical team. So when you're talking to the medical team, you'll want to understand what is it that what you're told, what is being offered to you as treatment or services, that you understand it, and when you're giving your consent, you have carefully understood what is it that you're saying yes to. Attending appointments. Also, what I suggest is to prepare your list of questions beforehand, so that when you're going for your appointment, then you can be ready with your questions and you can make the most of the time. Keep a file, organized file, where you're taking notes, so that you can have your notes and you can discuss those with your team. When it comes to major healthcare decisions, this is a very important topic. So we have another session on advanced directive that goes into much more detail. So I won't get into that right now, but what I would suggest is, what are the important healthcare decisions that you and your loved one who's going through cancer need to know about, and have those conversations early on, so that you know what that person wants, what their wishes are, and you can do your best to honor those wishes, whether it's about DNR or it is about getting full treatment, whether it is about what kind of treatments they want or what kind of cost impact they want. Those are things you would want to discuss openly together, so that you are aware and you can make decisions together in this regard. And internally coming to that consensus with each other, so that you can work together as a team when you're working with the medical team. So some more tips here is, think about these things, like I said, what's most important to the patient before. Reflect on these choices, honor the patient's wish, because it's their life, what they are choosing. And remember that there is only so much that you can do. So do the best you can, and that's all that we can do, and that is more than enough. When you are taking care of loved one, you'll also want to know when you can call the doctor, who to call, when to call, and then what can you do after hours. So if there is any emergency after hours, then what is the number to call, or should you be going to the emergency room or urgent care, and you'll want to have that information handy with you. Now I want to go into personal expectation, that is going being a caregiver is emotionally taxing on us too, because we are worried about our loved one. We're thinking about their life, how it affects us, and also all the things that we are taking responsibility for. So we have so much emotions to think about and to deal with. So it's important to be aware of our own emotions, take that time um, to reflect on what you are feeling. So for me, when I was going through it, even at the end of the day, when I was ready to go to bed, there was so much happening, so much spinning in my mind. So I would take time to journal. So I would write down everything that I was feeling, acknowledging those emotions, acknowledging my fears, acknowledging my exhaustion, acknowledging my worries, And then if it was something that I could work on, I was thinking about that, working on it. Um, if it was something that I needed to get help, then I was trying to get some help, at least being aware of that. Now, physical expectations. So, if when we're taking care of loved one, we physically it may be require certain things from us. So, or physically there might be certain things that that individual needs, our loved one needs. So, here being aware of it, but also being aware of what is your energy level, what is your capacity, whether you are able to address it or do you need help. That's something to consciously think about so that you're able to help your loved one and at the same time you don't injure yourself. We see a lot of injuries happen with caregivers because they're trying to do certain things that they've never done before, they've never had to do before, but they may not have the physical strength or may not know the right moves. So if you are helping with dressing, with feeding, with bathing, or with wound care, whatever those things are, know what you are comfortable with, and get help if you need it. Okay, there are many resources for getting help. What I'm covering now is also what are the questions you may want to think about. These questions will help you to think about how much is the effort and energy needed from you so that you can proactively um, prepare for it, because when things are coming at us, sometimes we may not know. So I came up with this structured list of questions for you. So the first question you want to find out is your loved, what is the capacity of your loved one? So is your loved confined to bed, or are they homebound, as in they can move around the house but not outside, or are they able to get out and do things on their own? And of course this will vary from time to time in case of your loved one, but based on their ability to self-care is going to determine how much effort is going to be needed from you. Next is feeding. Are they able to feed themselves, or can they be fed with supervision, or do you need to feed them? Because again, that's going to determine how much effort. Similarly with bathing, are they able to bathe themselves, or they need help or supervision? Okay. This is another very big one, is bowel and bladder. So are they able to use the restroom by themselves, or do they need some help, like getting down on the toilet bowl or up, or do they need full help with bowel and bladder activities? If that's the case, then you would need to take that into account. The other point to think about is the cognitive ability. So are they able to think clearly and make decisions, or are they mentally confused, or they need some guidance but they're okay, or are they are they somebody who would need more support? So based on this, you'll be able to determine how much time and effort it's going to take you. Is this something that is going to take less than 10 hours of time a week, or is it between 10 to 20 hours, or is it 20 or more? So you will want to think about all these so that you can accordingly allocate the time. So based on these responses, you can total up the points, and then 6 points means you can expect a more demanding caregiver role. 18 points means that it can be manageable. So based on how many points are here, you can calculate and determine the level of support that your loved one needs and how you're going to prepare for that. All right, there are a lot of resources for caregivers, so I suggest you go look for them. I put some here. National Alliance for Caregiving has a lot of community resources for caregivers. There is a whole list of support and resources that are there. There is also Peer Connect, which is peer-to-peer support and guidance program for caregivers. There is Cancer Care, has a lot of resources and programs for caregivers as well. On our HelpC platform, we have a whole section for caregivers and a lot of resources and programs for caregivers. So you can access those as well if you are in the program with us. I know caregiving is a lot of love. We care about our loved one, and at the same time, it can be sometimes daunting and emotionally or physically quite taxing. So I hope you found this helpful. It's an overview. There is a lot more to caregiving and a lot more resources out there, which we go more in depth in our other presentations and other community resources. I hope this was a good guidance and start for you. Thank you for watching. If you would like to know about more content along these lines, then hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be informed when we create more. If you like this video or you have some thoughts to share, then please comment and hit the like button. And you can always reach us on our platform and the different sites which I've put in the description below. Thank you, and my best wishes to you on your healthcare journey.